Japan's most controversial idol group, BIS, is what we're going to talk about. What is an idol group? According to Google, an idol group is a group of entertainers who are marketed for their image and appeal. They are often singers, but may also be trained in acting, dancing, and modeling. Idols are usually managed by talent agencies and are promoted through merchandise and endorsements. Examples of idol groups, guys. AKB48. Morning Musume is another reference that they brought up. They had the consecutive top 10 singles for any Japanese artist. I don't even know who that is. So you ready for the controversial one in here? Baby Metal was labeled on here. Japanese idol group whose third studio album was highest charting Japanese language album on the US Billboard 200 chart. The reason why I say controversial with Baby Metal is because nobody wants to say that they're an idol group.
Of course they don't. The reason for that is because the people who generally, I think, again, this is an opinion, the people who are listening to Baby Metal are people who like listening to rock and metal, right? And if they are a bit older, the idea of them telling them, like, oh, you listen to an idol group. Like, no, I don't listen to idol groups. No, I listen to metal. You listen to Baby Metal. And it's just, I think the idea, the concept of the older generation listen to idol groups, probably not going to go over well. So
yeah, I agree. And this is where I say, fucking get over it. Who cares? I fucking love Baby Metal. Whatever. I don't care. I don't get why people are so hung up on that idol word and why that's so controversial.
Well, dude,
I know you just explained it, but
no.
I can't accept it. Baby Metal is probably like also one of the most influential Japanese groups ever out of Japan. They're definitely one of the top 5 most influential groups from there. Not just influencing Japanese music in general, but just Western music. Would we have Electric Callboy without Baby Metal? Baby Metal was doing that stuff before Electric Callboy was.
Whoa, you just threw out some
with the dancing vibes, with the fun music. I feel like they made that popular, in my opinion. Have you listened to Electric Callboy?
Yeah, of course.
Oh my god, dude, they came out with a new song. It's just so fun. They're just like how Baby Metal is like, it's just, you listen to them, it's just a fucking blast to listen to. Yeah. It's so good. All right, so we're gonna watch this video that was put out by Nihon John. This is Japan's most controversial anti-idol group, BIS. We're gonna listen to this and talk about it.
We're going back to the anti-idol side of things, and if there's one group that we must talk about when it comes to anti-idols, it would be this one. They were known for their rather provocative music video.
So anti-idol is like the opposite. They're going against the norms or whatnot.
Well, isn't that some metal music is like that? We have a whole genre of punk music.
Yeah, edgy,
insane fans.
More or less.
By popular request, in this episode of Otaku Files, we talk about the legendary alternative idol group BIS. Most of us outside of Japan may not be aware of some of the more interesting personalities within the Japanese otaku landscape. So I thought I'd do a little video series and try to shed some light on these individuals. This is
what does that mean, otaku landscape?
Otaku is a Japanese word that describes people with consuming interests, particularly in anime, manga, video games, or computers. Its contemporary use originated with a 1983 essay by Akio Nakamori in Manga Buriko.
Otaku are those people who are really into anime and manga and video games. They don't leave the house.
For Brand New Idol Society, or Shinsei Idol Kenkyukai in Japanese, BIS were an alternative idol group that were active from around the end of 2010 up until a few months ago as of this recording. During that period, they also disbanded twice. Currently, BIS's timeline is broken down in generations. The first gen being from 2010.
Yeah, I guess that would be considered anti-idol group, right? They're just humping each other on stage. Okay. They were stripping down naked too in the beginning.
I saw that. Like,
the second gen from 2016 to 2019, and the third gen that started from around a month after the second gen's disbandment in 2019. For this video,
more of a
though,
shock
we will mainly be focusing on the first gen and their formation, as well as their reputation. Now, to talk about BIS's origins, we need to talk about the group's former leader and the one considered to be BIS's founder, Pu Rui. Originally from Yono, located in Saitama, Rui actually started off as a solo artist around 2009, calling herself New Age Rock Icon. Definitely starting out big. Her manager at the time was Watanabe Junnosuke, who would actually become the founder of the music production group WAC, and would also help Rui start BIS, as well as be involved in their overall production. WAC would be known to have a number of more non-traditional idol groups under them, such as BIS from their second generation, Bish, ASP, Gang Parade, and so on. Now, Rui had always been into music and admired many different singers. She even started a band during middle school within the school's music club.
Middle school, man. Imagine being able to just start a band in middle school.
We tried to.
What, not in middle school. We didn't start until high school. We didn't do that until high school. Actually, believe it or not, guys, Joey's the reason why I started playing music. I wasn't playing anything. He was playing before I was.
Fucking welcome.
I wanted to play drums originally. And then Joey was like, bro, just play guitar. Like, it'll be easier. It'll be easier. You could just get a guitar. It'll be much faster to get. And he told me this near the end of middle school. And that's why I started saving up my lunch money to eventually be able to afford a guitar. And I bought a first act guitar that fell fucking apart. We were holding it up with toothpicks for the machines to keep them, to keep the machines inside the guitar. I played it so much. When I got that guitar, I don't think Joey realized how obsessive my personality was up until that point and addictive it was. So when I got the guitar, I was obsessed because the thing that came easy for me with music was just like being able to coordinate right away. I've been playing video games since we were like fucking 5. So like we had the hand-eye coordination for it. So it was just easy. And then like just start playing and I'd just play hours and hours and hours. Oh, I really wish I could get back to playing for hours and hours again. Those are like some awesome times, just playing those constantly.
Even played at some small music venues known as Daibuhouse in Japanese. She was serious about entering the world of showbiz and even took a number of auditions from her 3rd year of high school. The one she managed to pass was an audition set up by the indie record company Tsubasa Records titled Kawashima Ai ni Tsuzuke Major Debut Audition, which we can translate as Follow in the Footsteps of Kawashima Ai, the audition to make your major debut. For those that don't know, Kawashima Ai was a prolific singer-songwriter who unfortunately ended up stopping her activities in 2023 due to ongoing complications from vocal cord surgery. She was made to take on the name Purui, as essentially instructed within an email sent by Junnosuke explaining that it meant for him in French. She would then make her debut as the sort of protege of Kawashima Ai, singing only love songs, which apparently was the concept she was given. Rui was actually a massive fan of idols, especially Morning Musume. She particularly admires
we just talked about her.
Her solo activities as an artist though weren't going that particularly well, and as a way to market her, Junnosuke contacted Ototoi, a fee-based music distribution website that also shares music-related news. The plan was to put up regular stories or articles based on Rui for a year. However, in the course of their conversations, one of Ototoi's editors noticed that she spoke passionately about idols, and then suggested, if you like them so much, why don't you become an idol yourself?
Yeah, idols, it's in the name. It's there to influence people to hopefully do music or set some good example. But so that's when it gets funny when you have the anti-idol thing come up, because you don't want to follow an anti-idol, right? You want to follow an idol. When you hear in English, you idolize that person, right? You look up to that person. And anti-idol in my head would be like, oh, that's somebody you don't want to really follow and
don't
look
want
up
to follow that person. I get it for Japan in the sense for like their culture and how strict they can be. I get it because they're very strict about everything. When we go there, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's ridiculous. And so I can get it. Like wanting to be able to preach out, to go out and be like, yes, I'm going to do exactly what they told me not to do. What they tell us not to do. I'm going to go do that. I get it. Like humping on stage, nobody.
At the time, Rui and Junnosuke didn't actually work that well together. Junnosuke was very strict with her, and that made her pretty much hate him. Seeing that weird look on his face was all she needed. She agreed to turn to the idol path. So instead of the articles being solely about Rui, it would be about the forming of her idol group. It also ended up being for more than 1 year, being a more permanent thing. However, Junnosuke wasn't very happy with the whole idol idea, and even at the beginning told Rui that she was on her own after failing to convince her to change her mind. This idea of doing it by yourself is actually what formed the basis for BIS's motto of DIY, something that prevailed throughout BIS's whole run. There is even footage of members setting up things before a concert. However, since starting things completely by herself was surprisingly a lot more challenging than one might have thought, Junnosuke did end up helping Rui out. Through Tsubasa Records, auditions were held to find members for her idol unit. Even though a PR campaign was also done for the auditions that were held in 2009, there were only around 30 people that applied. Luckily for Rui though, around that time the idol scene was completely blowing up, especially in Akihabara. Groups like Momoiro Clover Z, or should I say Momoiro Clover, that debuted around 2008 were gaining a lot of popularity, and even the idol group Puspo hit the top spot of the Oricon charts. As he explained in an interview, that was a time where even if the idol group weren't known, you would still get 30 or so people that would come and buy tickets for a show. I bet his eyes started turning into yen signs. The auditions for BIS were also shown via the streaming service Ustream, showing Rui interviewing each of the auditionees. Out of those that applied, 4 were selected, which, including Rui, would make 5 members in total. However, one of those selected decided to drop out, leaving BIS with 4 members that would make their debut: Purui, Hirano Nozomi, Yokoyama Rina, and Nakayama Yukiko. BIS's concept was a group of 4 that were pursuing their goal of becoming idols by researching idols. In other words, they weren't going off on the premise that they were already idols, but were just trying to be idols. Also, quote-unquote, researching idols also meant taking inspiration from other idol groups, and sometimes just straight up copying choreography. As some of you might know, the interpretation of this concept would eventually change too. Just by a little. Officially, BIS's activities started from November 2010, but the first song they would release would be Taiyo no Jumon, released January the following year, a song from their debut album, the self-titled Brand New Idol Society, that would come out not so long after that. Although their songs were what one might consider to be more
awesome
traditional
concept.
idol songs, they still had that aggressive vibe that they would be more well known for down the line. A fundamental reason for this is that the people involved with helping BIS in terms of behind the scenes would eventually become employees of WAC, or another music production company that they would often work with called Scrambles. According to Rui, they lucked out. Through one of the members' connections, they managed to perform at an event where a group called Prodea, who are associated with Paspo, were also doing their first performance. Being an indie group, which basically meant their budget was practically non-existent, their management, aka Watanabe Junnosuke, thought the only way to really make the group stand out and be noticed was through these methods. Junnosuke is actually a pretty controversial character among the Japanese interwebs for reasons such as these and others. The first music video we would see from BIS that would start the flames going is for their self-titled song.
The Phantom in the Night, this is going to be a YouTube video.
You can see the girls performing acts like cleaning and decorating the inside of a train. With what seems to be real passengers, this video received quite the backlash at the time of its release. Oh, and while standing up during the music video, Yokoyama Rina flashed her underwear or whatever, and apparently that was a big thing at the time. I guess management got what they wanted. The fun doesn't stop there, as for their next music video for the song Paprika, they essentially seem to parody Tattoo's All the Things You Said.
Thinking about that just for a moment, that she showed her underwear, right?
Yeah.
At that particular moment. For Japan, that's like a huge fucking deal to reveal that much.
Yeah, they don't usually accept that kind of behavior.
And the fact that like then they do the humping and stuff on stage and like doing crazy stuff there. There's even this one artist that would spit on the crowd and stuff like that, and they love it. They fucking love it. Ano does that. Yeah, there you go. Ano would like spit on the crowd and everything.
Dude. Because I think a lot of Japanese citizens are definitely crying for like a change in their society. I think they know that they need a change. We all know that change is also very hard.
Why do you think they would need a change like this, though? What change do you think they really need, in your opinion? Especially when a lot of us go over there and talk about how we love it so much the way it is. If they do some type of changes, that could technically get rid of what's happening over there.
I feel like that's because we are on the other side of the spectrum, right? We're very much open and very sexualized and very derogatory.
Yeah, we're more open with it.
Yeah, like all the advertisements, everybody's like naked, like practically naked. They're the complete opposite, right? They're like in their culture is very the opposite. They have the little cafes, they have their things, but they're not out in the open.
Yeah,
they're not in the open at all. I'm not saying like they want to be more sexual. It's more like they want to not feel ostracized for being more open.
They just want to flash some underwear every once in a while. There's a happy median, right? Like you said, one is completely one way and the other way is completely one way. There's no in the middle, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's no in the middle.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Mixing in headbanging and also stalking. It's very much on board with a lot of the management team's ideas, agreeing that this is how they could stand out from the rest. And for sure, those videos certainly brought in numbers and helped BIS start to develop quite a cult following, gaining fans that recognized that BIS was doing something really different from other idol groups around that time. By the way, their next music video was for the song Nerve, a solid fan favorite, which honestly even I really like. Compared to the others, it's actually a fairly normal music video. However, the packaging for the single looks like it's censored. Seems a bit familiar. Despite getting noticed, not everyone within the group felt comfortable with BIS's direction and the kind of reputation they started to gain. In later interviews, Ri would explain that there were actually a lot of arguments behind the scenes. I think it's important to understand that Ri had applied for tons of auditions, and it was the Tsubasa Records one that she finally managed to pass. Now experiencing some sort of success, she wanted to keep things going on as much as possible. She also commented
because if you're not getting in any other groups, and then this group, this anti-idol group, that's kind of being created by accident at this point, right? It just happened to be going in this direction. It's the only one that you can get. Do you leave it? Or you're going against the grain? Or you're not going with what society expects? That can get rough.
actually just enjoying herself. But for one member, it was just all too much. After around 6 months, starting member Yokoyama Rina would end up leaving BIS. After all the weird things they were
I'll
doing
be in
for their
Japan in
music
February.
videos,
Maybe we
like
can catch
randomly
one.
putting decorations around inside a train or headbanging with stockings pulled over their heads, Rina believed BIS had diverged far too much from her lifelong dream.
See, I hear that and I'm like, that doesn't sound that bad. They put some stockings over their head and headbang. Like,
Yeah.
Being in a standard
But as an American, I'm sure for them it's like that's a horrible thing to do or something.
group. Her final performance in BIS was in the Lifehouse Shimokitazawa shelter on June 24th, 2011. This also wouldn't be the only time BIS had a member graduate. In fact, over the years, they would experience a number of member changes. A famous Japanese interviewer, Yoshida Go, who would also interview Rui years later, commented that he saw BIS as having two kinds of members, those that were brainwashed by Watanabe Junnosuke and those that were not. This might be a big reason as to why there was so much infighting. BIS's very untraditional direction for their music videos would lead to what is arguably the video most people think of when it comes to BIS. In July 2011, they released their music video for My Eye. In it, the members undress themselves and run seemingly naked through a forest. As you can imagine, this caused quite the stir, but they were using skin-colored covers, so they weren't actually fully nude. The video
they had
though
skin
now
covers.
has
It's
over
okay.
12
Yeah, they got
million
skin
views
cover,
on YouTube.
but still,
in regards
for
to
Japan-
the video, Junnosuke explains pretty much what I said previously, that it was all about getting people to know the group. Around that time, they only had about 100 people that would come and see them live, and as long as the members were on board with it, this is what he thought was necessary. Rui actually mentions that her family ended up watching the video, but thought it still wasn't as bad as Paprika. Based. Thanks to Junnosuke, over the course of those 4 years, BIS had done quite a lot of other nutty and weird things besides making provocative music videos on a budget.
With Baby Metal, they had a lot of attention brought towards their way when they did the whole thing of being like crucified on the crosses pretty much.
That definitely drew some attention.
Yeah, that I'm sure got them a lot of attention. I don't know if it helped them a lot with getting them more popular, but I'm sure it did. I'm sure that garnered a lot of fans.
I mean,
You know.
just talking about it is, that's what they're looking for. Whether it's good or bad, just talking about it, being part of a conversation, that's all they need.
The only thing with stuff like this, when you go to these extremes, when do you hit the limit? Because then you have to keep one-upping each other. How far do you go to one-up each other?
That's our problem. That's our problem here in America. We one-upped each other so hard.
Bro, we got musicians eating shit on stage now.
The desperation for attention and to be noticed is out of control.
I did not mean to do a heart thing, but that was hilarious.
Oh my God. Wait. What? What?
Bob said, huh? You haven't seen that video yet? You should check it out. We got a video about a musician eating shit on stage. But where do you draw the line? Like, okay, you have to go nude at this point, right?
Look at American pop music right now. They're fucking naked and talking about sucking big dicks and having big asses and big tits. That's how desperate.
Wet ass pussy, bro.
Not even being creative about the lyrics either. They're like legitimately talking about sucking big dicks and having big ass. Like they just say it.
Collabing with a band called Hijo Kaidan to form BIS Kaidan, delivering some of the craziest live performances you've ever seen. By the way, apparently fans at these shows had to sign a waiver so that the group wouldn't be sued if a fan gets injured by some flying object. If there was a chance to create some sort of buzz, BIS would take it. One thing that BIS did, which I haven't actually heard many talk about, is the time that Junnosuke made the members cosplay as different famous characters and try to invade a Momoiro Clover Z event. Member Nakayama Yukiko even ran up to a truck that was promoting the group. But it was all for naught, as apparently the event had already finished by the time they got there because Junnosuke messed up the time. BIS ended up doing a small impromptu performance on the street, and Junnosuke ended up doing a dogeza. Just another day for BIS. Despite all the backstage bickering and member changes, BIS created quite a name for themselves and even managed to get onto a major label in 2012. That would also mean that a lot of the more insane ideas that BIS had were rejected by the...
See, this is something I really like about the idol groups in Japan, or the groups like this, because they have the band there playing. Like in the US, they immediately go to backing tracks. Even Baby Metal had backing tracks in the beginning until they got more famous, and then they were able to afford to change that up. But I love the fact that when they do make enough money, they go ahead and they start bringing in a real band. I really appreciate that. I seriously do. I love the fact
Yeah.
that, yeah, maybe they'll start off with the backing tracks or whatnot, but then eventually they will get a band on there, which is really freaking cool.
But on the other hand, they were also able to do bigger things. This would include 2 movies and even an animated series, all starring the BIS members. Pretty cool. However, over time, it seems that Rui's feelings towards the group started to change. With constant member changes and tales of negative exchanges behind the scenes, I guess it wasn't hard to see this coming. Not only that, it wasn't just Rui, but the management and the other members too that seemed to run out of steam. During an event in February 2014, BIS would announce that they would be holding their last concert on July 8th in Yokohama
That's true, Brian.
Arena.
There's
Apparently,
exceptions.
they were hoping for the Budokan, Japan's most famous arena, but their reputation wouldn't allow for that. The first generation of BIS had an amazing run, and even to this day, they are still talked about.
Yeah, they're saying in chat, there are exceptions like Atarashi Gakko for sure. They still only use tracks. Luis said bands are usually for special one-man events. Is it really? It's only for one-man events? By the way, make sure you go subscribe to Nihon John for putting this awesome video together. Definitely learned a lot from it, and I appreciate him doing that. So make sure you go subscribe to him. Show him some love. That was a really good video.